Hello, Illionauts. I am Brix, among other things, and I am now packing. Soon you won't see this background, so you might not see me at all for a while. But that's a conversation I'll leave for a different video when I'm actually on my way out. Today, I wanted to come back because Brian at Bookies has done it again. He's made another top 10 books, or not 10, in this case 25, that I couldn't help respond, in this case not to follow the trend, but to offer a critical viewpoint. And this is 25, of course we'll link the video in the description, 25 books that could be the great American novel. Now, in the fact that he's making this top 25, he's already acknowledging my critique. So I'm pretty sure he's like fully aware of this. He seems like a pretty smart guy, and I'm probably not telling him anything new, but I just wanted to bring this discussion into BookTube, just in case any of you have not thought about this, which is the fact that like there is not one great American novel, there's not one great Spanish novel, there's not one great Russian novel. In fact, it's quite reductionist to think about the great novel when it comes to a nation. Nation states in general tend to be divided by, like most nations, especially the ones that have a multicultural background, are already like a nation that contains nations. That's something that's often said in the left-wing political parties in Spain. That Spain is a nation of nations kind of thing, because there is so many different parts with different languages inside the same country. And if it's true for a country like Spain, which is this big, imagine for a country like the US. Now, I mean, I already have a problem with the fact of like calling the US America, but that's something that's being repeated so often that at this point it's just a discussion that I'm bound to lose. So I won't talk about that, but which is also self-evident in my opinion. But I just wanted to again touch on this point. What is the great American novel? Something that I found semi-problematic on Brian's video is that if you could make a drinking game out of this, or if maybe change it for something else, but if you were to make a drinking game out of this thing that I'm gonna say, you probably would not get to the end of the video. It is, let's just count the amount of times that he says inherently American. I think he says inherently American at least 3 times per book, and there's 25 books. So that's almost 100 times, that's 75 times. It's probably more than that, but I don't personally consider or believe that there is such a thing as inherently American. I understand the idea of like wanting to capture the soul of a country, the essence, very metaphysical, right? Sounds kind of a bit wishy-washy. That's how it sounds to me. But I understand where the feeling is coming from, because once upon a time there was such a thing, and even today, right? If I were to like be on the same room with like 10, 20, 30 different people that are from different countries, if I have encountered enough people from that country, I would probably be able to tell that they are from there. But that is again a stereotype that in its as Hegel says in his book, like in plurality, like in wanting to like contain the whole, we are excluding a lot of realities. And that is where I feel like probably Bookie's video of 25 books comes in. It's presenting different realities. The point is that there is no single book or no top that we could make that really contains every single reality of every single person of any country, let alone America. On top of all of that, there is something that for me is the event. I don't know if event is really the way I would refer to it, because it's more like a paradigm. I don't think that history is that linear. I do think that some parts of the world still live in the feudal era, in the medieval era, while other parts are way ahead of the 21st century in terms of its technological and social advancement, if you can talk in such terms. But I think there is something that has rendered the idea of the great American novel specifically, maybe there could be such a thing as the great Bolivian novel, because it's a much more self-contained country than America. But there is something that has rendered that, the great American novel, as a concept, in my opinion, completely obsolete and even kind of silly to talk about. And that is globalization. Right now, there can be an archetypical American when we think about the 20th century and any century before that. The 20th century is already a bit too late, because even in the 20th century, you could encounter a half Filipino, half Chinese person that has like a completely different background, completely different values, and they might agree about two things with other people living in America, or they might not. That's the point, that there is nothing inherently about being American. There is nothing inherent about being American. Perhaps you could say, no, being American is really that, multiculturalism, but that's also not true, because how many other countries have that, right? So it's not inherently American. You could be multicultural, you could be precisely like hard to point down to a different group or stereotype, and yet not be from that country. There is, like, right now, globalization, as the name says, is global. And because of that, what do you say? What do you mean when you say inherently American? And what are you saying when you say this is the great American novel? My reaction is when someone says this is the great American novel, I just think, do you have only one? Like, that's it? You have one? Because then you can say a great American novel, but I mean, like, imagine the period, the discussion is not as juicy, right? Because then it's not the one. We love to have like this thing at the very top, but we're not talking about the best. You perhaps could talk about the best book of each genre, right? I do still think that you would have to divide by genres, in the same way that when it comes to the great something of a country, you probably, if you are talking about quality, but this is not what you're talking about. You're talking about the representative value of this book in terms of its inherent properties related to a nation and its society, which is where, like, the fragmentation of society nowadays makes it impossible. And I don't think that is fully negative. I think it's very positive in many ways. I am for globalization, not in the way that exists, but I am for it. But I lost the train of thought. I had something else to say about this topic. Yeah, also that you will have to divide it by century as well. That's the other thing. Because, personally, for me, the great American novel would be Moby Dick, but for its century, right? It doesn't represent the 21st century America. It doesn't represent the 20th. Like, these are the considerations I wanted to bring into the table. I'm gonna keep this short because I actually don't have that much to say. I haven't read as many. I could not make a top 25 the great American novel. I've read a few of the ones that appear in Bookish video, and a few that are not there, but not 25. So I leave it to you. If anyone was planning to make a response to that video, or if no one was, but you find this topic interesting, you have something to say. I also saw another video by Katie Books talking about a book he didn't like, in my opinion. I think he didn't like it. I don't remember very well, but I think he didn't, which is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, and how that could be the great American novel. And I found also very interesting that point, that the great American novel doesn't even have to be a good book. You only have to, or to your favorite book. It has to be like the one that represents more the specific context or values of your nation, right? I know BookTube is now, although it's heavily, because we are talking in English, it's heavily based in the UK and the US. I would love for each person to make their own version. Being aware of this critique that I've made right here, I would love for each person to make their own version of what are like the great books that represent certain different aspects as opposed to the whole of their nation. So if you are, or even like, the great Texas novel, if you're gonna divide America into smaller states to get a bit more of what you're trying to get at. But I do think that we need to be aware of that. I don't think that we need to make it explicit every now and then, even if it sounds a bit self-evident. I think this video might be silly to some people. Because I would imagine that, I'm pretty sure that Brian is completely aware of this, and yeah. So I'm not trying to teach anyone. I'm just trying to bring this into the conversation. That's all. So I'm looking forward to know which books do you think that are the great novel of wherever you are from, the one that represents that place the most, whether it's a region, a city, and so on and so forth. And also what you think about the idea of that single book representing, being called the great. Like, do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you think that there's such a thing as a book that should be chosen as the great, like in Russia they have the great social novel from Tolstoy and the great psychological novel by Dostoevsky. So yeah, that's all. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you soon on the other side.